All right, I think we can start now. Once again, good day to everyone who is online. My name is Gina Teddy. I'm the SOSTAC Africa Regional Lead, together with my colleague Dintle Molosiwa, Dr. Dintle Molosiwa, who is sitting in Botswana. She will be joining us soon. She's having a lecture now. She'll be joining soon. We would be moderating the program. I believe most of you were part of last time's process mapping training, for which we introduced you to the Bizagi software. And we have no other person than Professor Don Savigny, who would be helping us through the things that we can do, the possibilities of using Bizagi. We sent an invitation earlier. We attached some 2 documents as a reminder of your to guide you to practice. And then we also asked you to download the software. If you haven't, it's not too late. Hopefully you can download it so that you can follow the activity. So I'll hand you over, without much ado, I'll hand you over to Prof. And I'll stop sharing my slides so that he can take over from there. Over to you, Prof.
Thank you, Gina. And it's very nice to be back. And thank you to SOSTAC for organizing this. I'm just going to share my screen and get started. So hang on a sec. Can you see this title slide now?
Yes, please.
Yes,
okay.
We can.
Good. Well, this is a thank you for joining, because this is a rather unusual session. I've never done anything quite like this before. At the last, at what we call part 1 of this process mapping session was last December, and so many of you, hopefully all of you, were part of that that training, where we introduced Bizagi for process mapping for health system managers. And then there was a part 2, which was an exercise, which was already laid out in that part 1, for you to go home, download Bizagi, get the program working, and try to make a simple process map following the practical that we laid out in the training session. And we thought it might be worthwhile, since normally we do these trainings face-to-face, to have a follow-up to see what kind of problems you're facing getting us off the ground, because tools are only useful if you can use them. And so just knowing about a tool is not enough. You have to have the tool in your hands and know how to use that tool and when to use that tool. And so today is just a chance to tap into any problems that you have faced in playing with Bizagi, in using it to try to do that exercise or to do your own process map and so on. So we might not need all the time. There's a small number of on the call, so that's promising. It means that most people got it working well and they're happy with it. And so hopefully all of you that are on the call were part of part 1 and 2 and have Bizagi loaded on your computer, and you've faced a few problems, and I'm really here to help you sort out those problems. And it's very difficult to do that over Zoom, but let's try. So remember, part 3 is what we're going to do today, which is giving you some tips and tricks to get Bizagi working for you and to answer your questions. And so to remind you, and this PowerPoint will be shared again with everyone who's on the call, to remind you that you can download Bizagi here, and it's free, and you just register to get the free download, and that's the end of it. Once you've downloaded it, you can use it out of the box just like that. So you create an account to enable your download, you do the download, and then you can start mapping. So hopefully everyone got to that point. Usually when you start Bizagi, it asks you to log on. You don't need to log on. That's just an option. And you can close that log on box and go straight into using your Bizagi as a standalone software. The other thing you should do when you're in the Bizagi website where the download is look around, because there's lots of useful material there. There's a guide to how to install it. There are many videos and tutorials. There's a big e-learning portal, which will take you to YouTube videos and so on. And there's product support, and you can actually download a manual. It's about a 100-page manual, how to use Bizagi. So basically, you don't really need me. You have access to a huge amount of training material free of charge from the Bizagi website where the download is. So, and again, here's the Bizagi Monitor user guide. You can download that from the Bizagi website. So hopefully you poked around and you found those things and you've already had a look at those, and hopefully they have solved your problems. So I'm just going to show a few slides in case some of you drop off before we end, and then we'll go into tackling your problems one by one. So just to remind you that anyone can use Bizagi. If you can use a computer, you can use Bizagi, because there's only 3 things you need to know how to do, and that's drag, drop, and right click. Everything is at the fingertips under your mouse with drag, drop, and right click. So after I show you a few more slides, we're going to come back and use the chat, and I'm going to ask you to write down your question or your problem. And since the group is relatively small, maybe you can just come on and talk about your problem. But we'll try to group the problems in a sequence so that we can tackle them in a logical way. There are just a couple of things you should know about. When you're in Bizagi, there's a few very useful functions that people don't notice. And I'm just going to tell you quickly, and then I'm going to demonstrate them a little bit later. One is under the Format menu, there's an Align button, which helps all of your tasks on your map. Once you drag and drop them, they can be kind of out of place, and it will align them in a very neat way. There's another button called Validate, which will proofread your yeah. Could everyone mute themselves unless you're joining the conversation? There's another button called Validate, which will read your process map and point out any errors in it. Usually the most common error is that an arrow. Sorry, if you're speaking, could you mute yourself? And then there's another button that we'll talk about a little bit later, which is Publish, which allows you to actually make publish a booklet about your process map with a cover page, a table of contents, and your process map, a small booklet that you can give to your stakeholders. So there's a lot of functions in the process map. And there will be interest, I think, in when you start mapping your processes in managing your health system, in basically sharing that knowledge either through case studies or through the booklets that I just described, or even publishing. So keep an eye on the literature. You can set up in Google, you can set up a search that searches for process mapping. And anytime anyone publishes a paper on process mapping, you will see it and have a look and get some ideas of how other people are using process mapping and what they're doing with it and what their experience is. So just this week, there was a new paper on the role of process mapping to improve surveillance data globally in a particular journal, a journal that you probably don't look at. But anyways, the methodology is the same. they're using Bizagi, etc. And you can see what others are doing. And one thing we'll do at the very end, if there's still time, is show you how you can turn your process map into a model. And there's a YouTube video, and we could look at that video if you want during this session, a 5-minute video, which shows how you take your process map and turn it into a model of the process, so you can simulate what happens when you run that model in real life, and when you change something. So you can look at if it's the resources that are required, the cost that the time it takes for the process to go from start to finish. It will tell you if you've improved your design. So you can actually intervene on your process map and then test it in the computer in a scenario model before you actually go out and try it in real life. So many, many powerful things you can do with process mapping. I'm just going to show you, I'm going to share another screen here. Let me find it. Okay, you should be able to see your process map now. I hope you can. So this is a process map we actually did in Ghana several years ago in the civil registration and vital statistics system for what happens to the information flow when there's a death in the community, not in the health facility, but death in the community. And they wanted to introduce verbal autopsy to understand the causes of death in the community. I just wanted to show you what a finished process map can look like and how attractive it can be. And in this case, what they did was they color-coded the different important functions of the process map, so you can follow different ideas through the map. So anything to do with notifying the death event is in this color. And so you can walk through and see, if you're only interested in notifications, you can see, oh, these are the notification steps here. And then if you wanted to see what decides whether the verbal autopsy is done, that is in another color. And you can look for that and see where it occurs. Want to see the verbal autopsy data collection and how it's transmitted through the system, that would be in green, and you can follow that into the system, and so on. The analysis and dissemination would be in purple. So that's another way of making your process map attractive and interesting. So here, as we saw last time, the process map is a swimming pool with swim lanes. This is the lane for the family. Anything the family does is in this horizontal lane. This is the lane for the CHIPS. This is the community health, primary healthcare system in Ghana. So anything that CHIPS does is in this lane. This is the lane for the Ghana Health Service at the health facility. That there's nothing for them to do because it's a community death with a verbal autopsy. This is the lane for the birth and death registration office. This is the lane for the Ghana Health Service at national level. And this is the lane for the Ghana Statistical Service, which is responsible for vital statistics, where the final result ends up. So you see a very simple process map with all the main activities that anyone can follow. And this map can be shared with all the stakeholders and to understand exactly how it is intended to work. And then they use this as a roadmap in designing a system. And then they can turn it into a model, and they can put 1,000 deaths here and see how long it takes those deaths to come out the other end, as long as they know what percentage of families notify the event, what percentage of families follow, or what percent in each of these gateways. Each gateway is a conditional probability. If you do a study and find out the performance of those gateways, you can actually model the whole system and see how many actually succeed in having their vital statistics recorded in the final laneway. So I just wanted to show you that there's lots you can do to make your process map a little more accessible and colorful. You just right click and change the colors and so on. It's very easy to do. And you can help communicate your process map to the very many stakeholders who will be involved with that. So I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint. And here's where we hand it over to you to raise your problems in the chat, or to put your hand up and ask us a question. So, did everyone? I have to see if I can see the chat. I'm going to stop sharing because I can't see the chat. Okay. Okay, so Mina is going to catch up, and she probably has the PowerPoint from last time. Okay, Erasmus has difficulty downloading Bizagi. I was on the website the other day and I downloaded it again, so I didn't have any difficulty. So did anyone else have, I'm just going to look down. Okay, so far the chat is about the downloads. So Erasmus, if you could walk us through exactly what difficulty you had in downloading Bizagi.
Yes, good afternoon.
Hi, Erasmus.
When I tried to download, it appeared that it will soon download, or else I should go down and click at a point. And then when I go to click, nothing happens. So I don't know whether there's a problem with my computer or what.
Ah, and did you try on another day? It might have been their server was suffering, or did you try?
Okay, I tried it twice and it couldn't work. So I don't know actually what to.
Did anyone else have that same problem? They couldn't download. Nothing happened. Quado?
Yeah, I also had the same challenge. I couldn't download.
Yeah, that's fine. I had the same challenge, but I resolved it. I've done it.
How did you resolve it, Quadro?
Okay, so when you go to the platform where the download is, and then you choose the modeler.
Okay.
Can I share the screen so that it will just be an easy? So
Yeah.
you see it.
Yes.
Very
Okay,
good.
all right. Hold on, once I share the screen.
Okay.
I hope you can see the screen.
Yes.
So you come here, then you go to Bizagi modeler. And you go to the
Start create load. I don't know why I'm not getting it. Okay, let me down.
so it takes you to the platform where you enter your details.
Still not working for me.
Still not working for you. Don't worry, it will come. All right, I'll get there. I know where the challenge is. I also had a similar challenge. So with the download side, there was two options where you have the Bizagi I think there's also another
Yeah, Bizagi Studio and Bizagi
studio,
Studio.
Bizagi
And
Studio,
modular.
and beside is the download. I would say down there, there's written in small caps. Down there, below the download of the modular, there's a small caps over there.
Mhm.
I think the screen's giving me a problem. So
Yeah, if you go back to that screen, you could copy the URL and put it in the chat for everyone.
okay, then I'll copy the URL and put it in the chat. But down there, there's a small which is description at 3.0. 3.0.
Yeah.
Small caps.
Okay,
So just click on that one. Don't click on the download, just click on that one. Have you seen it?
okay.
Yeah, why
Is it
don't you
coming?
go back and start that again to the start screen and
Is it coming?
share the URL in the chat.
I've seen it, so I'm trying to see if it will come.
So it's downloading now.
Yes, just that my network is a bit slow, but
Okay. So once you go there, you don't click on the download
I
itself.
think it's done.
There's a small inscription below the download.
Yes.
Just click on that one. It will just pick it up and download it for you.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, very, very good, Quadro. Thank you very much. It could be that because I've already downloaded it, I don't get to the same screen that you did.
Yes. Yeah, I did the download. That's why I'm not also getting the same screen.
Yes. Okay, if you could put your URL that you used in the chat, then everyone who's struggling can start from there. So that's very helpful. Thank you. So how many succeeded in we do a quick poll. How many succeeded in downloading and actually using Bizagi? You put your hands up. I don't see any hands. Who would like to go first with a practical Bizagi problem once they started to use it?
So if I can show. Prof,
Yes.
the platform has opened now. So if I can share that platform.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so can you see the platform? So you are supposed to click on this one, the 3.9.
That's right. It's Bizagi Modeler.
Yeah, just click on the 3.9. It will just download it for you. So
That's the most
don't
recent.
click on the latest version, but click on the 3.9. Then you get your download. Thank you.
So copy that URL, portal Bizagi,
Okay. All right.
to the chat. So everyone who failed should be able to download it now. It might be hard to download while you're on Zoom. You might not have enough bandwidth. So Quadro, you've been playing with it. Do you have any issues?
Yes, actually, I've gone through the videos. I was watching the videos yesterday and today, so I'm sure that once you go ahead, I'll continue.
Okay, because today's session was really about troubleshooting. And for people who have tried to use it and then hit some bumps in the road, as with any kind of software, you always stumble because no matter how good the manuals and guidelines and instructions are, they never handle every possible problem you run into. So today's session was really to try to help solve practical problems of application. So I haven't prepared any lecture over and above what we did last time. The best way to learn software is to use it and then seek help from people who are more experienced with it to solve problems and keep going. So I'm looking for any particular problems. Okay, it looks like we're still upstream, that not too many people have used it to try to map the exercise or to try to map their own particular process that they want to use. So just to help a little bit, I'm going to go back to that Ghana process map and show you a few things that might be helpful while we're all together. Okay, so this is, once you've made your process map, remember how we did it in the demonstration. You start with a start event, you drag the start, well, you start with a pool, you create your lanes, these empty swim lanes. Here's an empty lane, and you drag an event from the palette over, drop it, and then you go, once you have dropped something, usually you drop the start event first. Every process starts with some event, and that's the green circle, that's your start event. And then you hook the event to the green circle. And then once you've done that, you can hook more events by dragging them out, and they already come with their arrow attached. The arrow should be perfectly correctly there. But you may forget to do that, and you just drop a task all by itself. And then you say, oh, I need an arrow. So then you go and get an arrow and drop it, drag it here, and hook it to this one. And then you decide where to hook the other end. So you grab the other end, and you can hook it anywhere you want. In this case, we'll hook it here. But you may make a mistake and drop it there. It's not really attached. And if you were to run this as a model, it would hit a dead end here. It's not, the flow is not patent, it's not correct. So there is a function called validate, which is hiding behind my Zoom thing here. But there's a little button says validate. And if you press validate, it will say there's an error message in validating the diagram. There's probably a few error messages in this one. So you say, okay. And then as you go to the bottom, a window opens up and the error will be there. And it says this connector is not connected in diagram 1. Each process map is called a diagram in Bizagi because you can have several diagrams, several processes mapped in the same file with different diagrams, just like different tabs in Excel. So it's diagram 1, which is this process map, a connector is not connected. If you double click on this, it will take you back and show you this is the problem. And then you can correct it by dragging it over, and when it lights up, now it's corrected. And now if I validate again, that error is gone. You can still save this map. I'll save it, but it says there's still some error message. The validation is, did you want to save anyways? You can still say yes. You can save it with the error. That's okay. You can correct those errors later. Okay. So that's the validate function. It's very useful when you're especially beginning, because you make a few mistakes like that. But usually when you try to build your own arrows one by one, because it's very hard to connect them. It's like, you know, PowerPoint or Visio. You have to be an artist. That's why I always prefer to drag whatever is next out, because it comes with its own arrow. Okay. So whatever you need, you can drag it out, and it will be attached properly. So you can see in this process map, there are documents. It's, in this case, I'll just follow the process through to a document. So the family has to declare the event to the local authority. The local authority is outside the family, so they go outside the family. In this case, they go to the chip zone and declare the event. The chip zone basically then goes is a key informant, a community key informant that visits the family, goes back to the family, and issues a burial permit and records the information in a register. So there's the register. And then one copy goes to the family, one copy goes to the verbal autopsy in the chip zone, and one copy goes to the birth and death registry. So these forms have names in bureaucracy. So this might be form D1. And you can label that with that form number. Now, a lot of people use the process map later when they want to do standard operating procedures. So in any important process, there should be standard procedures, standard forms, and so on. And so, and if you're doing a legal review of a set of processes, this is very useful for the lawyers, the legal review team, because they can see, we need a process here, we need a regulation here, we need some kind of regulatory attention to some document. So they can use this to make their work easier in figuring out what to do, process map, rather than just interviewing people and talking to them. So what you can do is actually hook a copy of that form as a PDF to that document, so that later, when you're in the process map, you can say, oh, what does form 1 look like? You can double click that and you'll be able to see that form. So in a way, the process map becomes the table of contents for your work. Okay, so that's just to remind you of a few things process mapping can do. Here is a gateway. Okay, and remember, there's different kinds of gateways. If you go to the gateway here, you'll see there's lots of different gateways. So this is a parallel gateway. Parallel gateway allows three or more things to happen at the same time. Whereas the usual gateway is either or. You can go one way or the other way, but not both ways. Parallel gateway, you can go and this way and this way and this way. Okay, those are the most common gateways we use in process mapping, and you'll use them a lot. So here is a parallel gateway. So it does this and this and this. 3 different activities from the same gateway. Okay. There might be another gateway. Here's another gateway. And the cause of death is established in the verbal autopsy. One copy goes to BDR and another copy goes to the Ghana Statistical Service. So that's a parallel gateway. Okay. What else can I show you here?
It was the most efficient method of getting around campus.
Any questions while I'm going? I can't see my menu bar because of this. I have a window open on my Zoom saying live transcription and things like that. I don't know if you see that, but it's blocking my.
Maybe promise to quit skateboarding forever, which is why I should probably stop now. But you can't. Not before teaching me some of your tricks. You don't know, Ronnie Ann. Please, just for
That's one of the problems of demonstrating software on Zoom. Oh, here's another function, publish. Okay, so I mentioned that a little earlier. So if let's say your process map is finished and you want to publish it, you can publish it to Word, to a PDF. You can even publish it to Excel. It'll make an Excel table of your process map, web, SharePoint, and a wiki. So let's publish it to Word. So I'll click on that. Get these out of the way. So we're going to publish the process map. It's called diagram 1. So I choose diagram 1 to publish, and I say next. Oops, no, it was already selected. So next. And then you can choose all the elements. Every element in the process map is listed, and you select the elements for the family, for the community, for the health facility, for the BDR office, and so on. So you can select what you want to show in your booklet, in your published map. Okay, and I'm just going to just chose a few things here, so I just want to demonstrate this. But you would select here exactly what you want to show in your map, in your publication, and so we're going to publish it to. We're going to use the modeler template, but you might have your own template, a Microsoft Word template, a dot file. You could put it in here and use that. So I'm just going to take the default, and we're going to do it as a portrait booklet. And I got to give it a name. Okay, I didn't set that up well enough, but basically what it will do, we'll make a very nice cover page. Then it'll have a table of contents with all of the elements of your process map, and it will have the process map itself. Sorry, a section describing each path. You'll be able to follow a path through the process map in text, and it will have the actual process map as a printable graphic. There's export function. But another function you use a lot would be, I'm going to close the error box here, is to print. So one of the easiest things to do is just to print it. And the trouble with printing it is because it'll break over several pages. So you have to use your print function to decide how to print preview and fit it on one page. Okay. sorry, my printer is now printing it. But the best thing to do is print it to a PDF printer and set it to a 1 page. Usually you can get most process maps on a single page. So this prints very nicely on an A4 page as a PDF file. Then you can send that PDF file to anyone you want. But if you want to publish it with all of the documentation behind the process map, including any documents that you attach, such as the death forms, the burial permits, and so on, in this case, you would publish it instead of printing it. Are there any questions? Okay, I've closed the validate tab. So put your hand up or chime in if you have a question or something you want me to demonstrate. It's just like yeah, the body. Remember, all of you start with one starting point, and they should end with one ending point, and then in between you can have intermediate points that are milestones. Yes. Go ahead.
All right, Prof, thank you. Prof, if you can take us through the usage of each individual pallets.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the pallets, if you click on the little down arrow beside them, they will describe what they are, what they're intended to be. And the mostly is the one at the top of the list is the one you most commonly use. There's some special ones. So the start event is used only once. That's the beginning of your process. Now the process might be in the first lane, but sometimes the process might start in another lane. So if we were to do death in a health facility, then we'd have to go down to the health facility lane and put the starting point there. It starts here and it goes up and down from there. So you only use one of these, but there are different kinds of events here that they allow you to use. So there's time, you can start a timer. You can have a start where the message is if it's a message starts your system. It might be that you use a signal to start your system. It might be a conditional start and so on. So all these are described in the manual, but usually we just use the default symbol, okay? This is the task. The task is an activity. So whatever you use, and we all most commonly use the default, is the smallest activity that you can write about. A task is used when the work in the process is not broken down farther. So this is an event. Family declares the event to a local authority. That's an event. Okay.
Let me show you now. Let me show you that.
Now you might want to use these other symbols to distinguish different kinds of tasks, whether it's a service task or a user task. It might be you're dealing with the public, or you're dealing with the system itself. So you might want to distinguish tasks by user. A receiver task, a sending task, a script task, and so on, managing task. These are just graphical cues to remind you what the task is. But most of the time, just use the default task. You can change it later if you want to. The idea is to map quickly and then go back and edit it, just like a Word document. You write quickly and then go back many different versions until you get it the way you want it. Some processes have sub-processes, okay? In fact, all processes are like that. So you could break this into sub-processes. The family declares the event to the local authority. Well, the family may have a family meeting first. They may have to organize some transport for that declarant and so on. You could, if you wanted, break it down into smaller sub-processes, which would be hidden behind the main process. This is the gateway. And the most common one is the exclusive gateway. You can either go one way or so it's a yes or a no. Just see if we have an exclusive gateway here. Not on this one, but usually we could have put an exclusive gateway here. The family declares the event to a local authority, and then you can put a gateway here saying yes here, no. Then you would take one of these. Whoops, I won't do it. I'll take it from here and drag it out. If the family, if we put a gateway there, I should do that with a gateway. I'm going to take an exclusive gateway, move it over here. And then from this gateway, I'm going to drag, sorry. And then you could type on this, if no, so you can type on, you can choose the line. And edit text and say no. Then the process stops right there. This is the most common problem. Oops. Anyways, the label no there, I would change the font later. You can set your default fonts somewhere, but that says no. And then the other one would be yes. And it would go down to this box here. Okay. So if no, process ends. And most of the time, this is true. And that's then if you have a conditional probability on this, you can add that probability to that gateway as an attribute. Okay, so gateway type is a exclusive gateway. You can add your attachment if there's a form required, but you can set its properties. In those properties, you can say lots of things about it, who's responsible for it, what it happens, and so on. But you can also put in the conditional probability. So let's say that 80% of the families say yes, they go and declare, 20% say no. So right away in your model, you would have lost 20% of your efficiency or effectiveness of your process right at step one. And each gateway will have another conditional probability. If the people if they don't do their job, the process stops. Okay. So in a fully detailed process map, you would be doing things like that if you wanted to turn it into a model. So that's the gateway. These the default is an intermediate event, what we call intermediate event, but there's different kinds of labels you could use, but we always just generally for most of our process maps use the simplest one. And so those are intermediate events. So in civil registration, there are intermediate events. There's death notification. Well, there's death declaration. What is that? Here's an intermediate event. The death is declared. That's a milestone in process mapping, in the CRVS process map. Then the death has to be notified officially and validated. So that's an intermediate event, a milestone. And then if all that is done well, the death is registered in civil registration. So that is a milestone. So that's an intermediate event. And after that, not all registered deaths are certified. The death has to be also certified. Okay. And that death certificate has to go back to the family. So there's another intermediate event. So these are important milestones you look for in a process map. So you already in your process, you will know these things must happen. You can turn them into intermediate events and label them so you can look for the process map. If they're missing, then your process is not complete. It's a good way to check if your process is complete. Now, deaths can be registered and certified, but without any cause. We don't know the cause of death. That's why the verbal autopsy adds the cause of death. And the final result is that that death should be part of the national aggregate vital statistics of the country for a given year, for whatever year that death occurred. And so that's the target we want. All deaths are registered and recorded and data used. So vital statistics produced, disseminated, and used for policy and planning. So that's what we look for. And those are the milestone events: the start event, intermediate event, and end event. Now you only want one end event, but as I showed you, there can be several end events. If some part of the process breaks down, then you have an end event too soon. That's a dead end. Okay, so if the family does not declare the event, it's a dead end. And that's a problem of a system because it's a passive system. Passive systems are never complete. The only way that can be complete is if the system becomes an active system where the CHIPS zone actually goes and seeks whether or not there's been a death. They've heard about the death, they heard about the funeral, they go and finish the job. Okay, so that's how a process map can help you re-engineer some of the strategies. So continuing with the palette, the most common line is the sequence flow, and that's the default. Everything must flow. Information flow is the lifeblood of a process, of a system. When information doesn't flow in the system fails. So all systems have information flow. So these are most often information flow, but they're basically a sequence flow, the sequence of events. Now you can label them if with different kinds of lines in terms of types of flow. So here's a message flow, for example. If it's a message as in the sequence, you could change that. But for most purposes, people have trouble distinguishing these lines. We just use the default line. When you start, this is the swimming pool. When you start the blank process map, soon as the very first thing you see is this. Okay, maybe I should start a new one. Okay, so this is what you see when you start your process map. Very first thing, you have the menu bar, the palette, and the swimming pool. And this is your process. So in this case, we just looked at the process for civil registration and vital statistics. But we don't have any swim lanes. We don't have anything for the people. So this is the swim lane. So you drag and drop it. There's one swim lane, but we need more. Drag another one. Now we have two. Drag another one. Now we have three. And you just double click on these to label them. It turns horizontal and you just type in whatever you want. Okay. You can compartmentalize your swimming pool with what they call milestones. We use the yellow circle for milestone, but you could demarcate it with this. But I find that you end up with too many black lines in the process map. It gets confusing for readers. So we prefer to use this for milestones. This is a record, a document. It can be a data, what they call a data object. And most of the time it's a document, a form, a record, a piece of paper, or it could be a file, but it's one object, okay? Again, you can drag and drop it and attach it, and it's also available in a task. So if we had a task here, we can drag out the document for that task, and I usually overlap it so it looks like it belongs to that task. Okay, and again, you can right click and change its properties and describe what it is, attach the PDF of that form or whatever it is to that task, that document. If you have many documents in a register, then you would use this. So it's more like a database or a register. A book. So an HMIS register book would be here, even though it looks like a computer hard drive disk. It can also be a paper register, but it has multiple records, single record, multiple records. Okay, and those are basically all the things we use. You can go and sort of change your font and format of the text later when you want to do the cosmetics. You can use the align function to make sure all your things line up with straight arrows as much as possible. But that's all cosmetics. The best thing is to move quickly, get all your tasks down, all your stakeholders, get all your stakeholders in their lanes, get the lanes in the right order, and then put your tasks in as quickly as possible, connect it up, and then start doing the more cosmetic. And remember, you can change the size of these things just the usual way. Centering things, make it wider. Because you start to run out of space sometimes with complicated processes. So that's the palette. Those are the things you use most often in the palette. They're always available, but when you beginners, we tend to use the palette, but once you get more familiar, just use the drag and drop here, so you can drag all these things out from, and with the arrows all attached. So you don't have to go to the palette. So once you start, you can also resize your documents, your tasks, because sometimes you might put a lot of text in there, sometimes just a small reminder what it is, but you can do that quite easily. Any other questions? That's the palette. I don't see the chat when I'm in share screen, so if anyone has something, please use the voice.
Prof, when you started, I think it makes sense to a lot of people who are just being able to download. So can you further explain what each of the swimming lanes will represent?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. When you go back to the lecture we did last December, you'll see that step one is a process, an activity called stakeholder mapping. And what we usually do when we're getting people together to do a process map, we try to identify all the stakeholders, all the players, all the actors who have a role somewhere along the line in the process. Now, sometimes you're just mapping a process that only you do. But that's not too interesting because you know what you do and you know exactly how to do it. What's more complicated is in systems where processes go across many different actors, where there has to be a flow of activity. And not only sometimes teams, but different agencies, different ministries. For example, what I just showed you in civil registration, there was the Ministry of Health, there was a birth and death registry, there was a community, there was local government authority, there's a National Bureau of Statistics, but they all, in order for the enterprise to succeed, for the process to succeed, which is registering of death or registering of birth, all of them have to work together. So that's a classic example where process map helps people understand everybody else's work. and how they fit together and how they can make it more efficient. Number of times in the health sector that a patient's name, address, date of birth, and basic information is captured over and over and over again in different systems, managing the same health problem in a referral system, in a hospital, or in a health center, or dispensary, or community health station, is a terrible waste of the patient's time and the health system's time. Is there other ways using other process to streamline that so information is collected once but used many times? So in order to do that, you need to identify all of your stakeholders and create a space for them in the process map. So that's what we do here. So usually we do stakeholder mapping, not process mapping, but stakeholder mapping, where you sit down with a small group of people who think they know the whole process end to end, and you ask them involved. Who does this? Who does what? Who does the next step? Who does the next step? Who has to approve this? Who has to play a role? And you put a boundary around that, because you don't want to, you end up process mapping the whole world. You don't want to do that. You want to have, this is the process that we want to map. Who is concerned? And in the health sector, it's often the patient or the family, the individual, for sure. Then it's the nearest health facility. It might be local government. It might be the hospital, etc. So you identify the institutions that have like responsibility in the process, and then you create a lane for them. So everything for that institution would be in that lane. So the health facility would have a lane. The next referral level would have a lane. Maybe the tertiary hospital would have a lane if they're involved at some point. Just keep adding lanes. They tend to be for institutions as opposed to individuals, but they could be individuals. You could have village health worker, for example, having its own lane. But more likely, that would be a community level lane. Does that answer the question about the lanes?
Yes, please. Thank you. One more thing, Prof. Most of our health workers tend to be working within the primary health care. And then one of the basic issues that they tend to have problems with, that they really want to understand, is the waiting time at the facility.
Yes.
Can we just demonstrate how we can use the time? If there is any possibility that we can quickly demonstrate to some point how this can happen at a typical primary health facility.
Yes, first you need to know the time, okay? So for some process maps, you actually have to do a little bit of implementation research. So you might have done a time motion study. You might have looked at waiting times at primary care, secondary care, tertiary care. And you do your process map of what the flow is, but you won't know the waiting time unless you actually measure it. But if you've measured it, you can add it to where is it? Yeah, you can set the timers on events. So you can add it, you can make an intermediate function here and use that symbol, and you can assign a property, and so that the property of this one would be the time. Okay, So you can set a timer, a date, and so on, and you can put it in the process map. Now, when you come to simulate that, okay, running the simulation view, that timer would be active. So let's say that that timer is 90 minutes. So if you wanted to look at the process for patient arrives at the health facility, maybe there's some registration that patient has to do at the reception at the health facility. How long does that take? You put that in the timer. Then they have to go to see the clinician. How long does that take? Maybe it's 5 minutes with the clinician. Put that in the timer. Put one of those there. Then they might go to the pharmacy. They get a prescription. They go to the pharmacy. They might have to wait half an hour for that to be filled, and so on. Then, or they might have to get a referral slip to go to the next level, which would be another lane. And then there would be another waiting. So the whole sequence will start there again. You put another timer. When you go to simulation view, all those timers are active. So then you would say, what is the time for this kind of patient to get effectively treated? If your end result in your process down at the bottom is an effectively treated patient, and your starting point was a patient arriving at primary care, and you have all these processes in between with timers, then the simulation would tell you, it would add all that up, and you could put, because you can actually put a range of times. It might be between 5 and 15 minutes, depending on the case. You would calculate the average time patient takes to go through the process. Okay. You would also look at resources that are used. If you're really doing a detailed process map simulation view, you would have the resources used, maybe the cost of resources used, and the time used. So it gives you graphs. You can put 1,000 patients in it. You can feed the simulation with say 1,000 events, and it would show you graphics of how long it's taking, because it runs iterations. It runs each person one at a time through the system, and then it basically builds up after about 5 minutes of simulation. It gives you a set of reports on how well that system has performed. Then the nice thing is you say, okay, that's not very good. You go back and say, here I seem to have my biggest bottleneck is this problem, or here's where we lose patients. They get referred, but they go back home. They don't go, whatever. You would say, let's fix that problem by doing this. And so you then make the intervention on the process map, run another 1,000 cases through, and see how much it saved time or saved resources or saved cost. That's the power of the process map. So the process map is a diagram. It's very pretty. It's very good at getting people to understand the end-to-end work they're doing. It's very good at finding bottlenecks. It's very good at communicating the problems to all the stakeholders. But the real power is when you turn it into a model, to go beyond the diagram into a model of your system, which basically simulates how the system is working. But for that, you need extra work. You have to know your probabilities of the gateways or the times, in this example, for the timers. Once you know those things, you can run simulation views and see how your resources are used. That's a more advanced use. There's a video. If you want, we can look quickly at the video, I think, of the simulations. Would you like to do that? I'm going to see if the video runs on a share screen.
That'll be great.
Okay. Let's see if this works. I think this is a YouTube ad. That's then.
We can't see the video yet, so maybe.
Yeah, it's. I don't know what screen it's on. YouTube has grabbed my screen for some reason.
Okay. Do you want to share the link in the chat box so that
Yeah.
I can
Okay.
try and see if I can
I
share?
hope it. Let me go back to PowerPoint.
Successful enterprises of the future. Bizagi provides powerful simulation capabilities that enable organizations to make better decisions by enhancing impact, ideas, and changes.
We're having trouble trying to get this.
Simulation is simple. Just take a process flow chart and add sources, cost, and ULP to run a simulation.
Yes, it's not showing this. It's not showing the screen for some reason.
Process analysts can analyze the results to identify bottlenecks, source elements in the process, and opportunities for improvement. With Bizagi, you can also experiment, make changes, and update scenarios. Run the simulations and see the impact. Scenario you run is respectful your business. Find the solution as exciting as we do.
Trying to find out to stop the. I can't stop the share here. I can't stop this for some reason. Yeah.
It's okay if you can share the link in the
Yeah,
YouTube link.
I'm
Then
trying to
people can
stop it.
use immediately.
Can you stop my share screen, Gina?
No, I haven't shared my screen.
No, can you stop mine? I can't stop it for some reason.
Okay.
Lazy.
Trying to see if I can stop it. But your screen is not on. Your screen is not being shared.
Okay, hang on. I'm hearing it, but. I can't seem to. Can you hear this narration?
It's very, very faint. You can barely hear it. So maybe you may
Yeah, I
have
can
to.
hear it quite loud, and I can't seem to stop it for some reason.
Oh, okay. So can you enable your
Okay.
sound in your
Yeah,
settings?
okay, I finally stopped it. Okay. Oh no, it's back. I'm going to log off and log in again.
Right. Okay, that's fine.
Oh, Jesus.
Events are circles with open centers. They represent something.
Okay, Don, whilst we are waiting, can I play one of the Bizagi YouTube modular tutorials so that you figure things out? Or he's gone out completely.
Hi, I'm back. Very sorry about that. It's a lesson not to use YouTube during your Zoom.
It's okay.
It was running to a remote screen, which was switched off. That's why I couldn't stop it or show it. Anyways, sorry about that. But those YouTube videos are available on the Bizagi website. There's quite a number of them. And so any particular problem you have, you'll find a 2-minute YouTube video, which is very good at explaining exactly what the function does and how to use it. So we have about 5 minutes left. Are there other questions that have come to your mind now? I think most of you now can download, if you haven't already downloaded it. I think the main thing to do is to play with it, start to map some simple process that you're very familiar with, which involves at least 2 or 3 different stakeholders. Get your activities down and cook them up in the logical flow and try to use all those main functions on the palette. and you'll see how easy it is to use. The best way to learn is to try and play with it, and then look at some of the published material and see if you can copy one of their process maps so you see all those main functions. But basically, functions I showed you are the ones that you use 99% of the time. Simulation is very much more sophisticated and is something you can do with if you have an implementation research team which has done some survey work and understands exactly the workflow, time motion, etc., that is involved in the process that you're mapping. I'm happy to get some email questions. If you run into problems that you can describe in 1 or 2 sentences, send me an email. We have a team of people at Swiss TPH who are quite experienced with process mapping and can probably get you an answer pretty quickly. Just checking the chat again.
There are no questions in the chat though.
Okay.
Yeah. So I guess we can open up for any key burning questions. Then we would have about 2 minutes to run and end this session. Is there any questions? Please kindly raise your hand and then, or just unmute yourself and speak so that it can be addressed. All right. I'm sure if there is any question, it will come up, but normally questions will start coming up as you start using the software itself. So people would need time to be able to do this. So if something comes up, please email. Don't share his email address the last time. If anything, you can contact me equally. I can put you in touch with him. And there are also some useful videos online. Please note that Bizagi can be used for so many different things, especially for leaders and people who work within not just the health facility, but in various areas that require things to follow specific steps. So if this is going to be something very useful to you, kindly just try your hands on it and see if you can apply it. And we'll be very happy also to hear your experience of using this in your workplace or even at home or wherever you have used it. We'd like to hear your experience in a short video or something so that we can encourage other people to also engage in this kind of systems thinking. All right. Don, do you have any last words that you want to?
No, I think just to say, just have fun, play with it. Don't be frightened of the software. I mean, the process mapping look very intimidating when you stand back and look at a finished one, but actually it's quite simple to build. Easy to build a software. You wouldn't want to do this in PowerPoint or some other graphics program because it makes it very efficient to visualize your processes, and visualizing processes is very important for being on the same page and understanding the problems that they all face.
All right.
The technical difficulties, and good luck.
Thank you, Don. Would you be able to share this particular presentation, or is it the same as the last one that you sent?
No, I've updated. I've added more slides to the last one, so the whole thing is in one PowerPoint. But I will share that. I'll send it to you, Gina, today, and you can share it to those who are on the call. So it has these links to the YouTube video and everything in it.
All right. So once more, this is Professor Don joining us from Canada. He's been very supportive of SysTac thinking, SysTac Africa, which is trying to promote systems thinking amongst researchers, students, as well as practitioners. And it's not just practitioners in the health sector, but practitioners across the health systems broadly. Thank you very much for your support, and thank you for always making yourself available to support and build capacity within the continent. We are very grateful, actually, and we hope that we'll see more of you. And whenever you come to Ghana, you know what to do.
Thanks, Gina, and my apologies again for the technical difficulties there.
I think we understand. We are in a continent where technical difficulties are experienced. So we do understand. And to those of you online, thank you for coming on board.
Yes.
We were expecting more people, but it's good that we have fewer people who actually have interest in using it. I guess some people also can do it on their own. We'll be sharing the video on YouTube, but we are having also challenges with our YouTube channel. So as soon as we can, we'll do that. And then if you have any questions, send through me. Any document will be sent only to those who are online. So that is why we are asking you to send us your email, your country, and then your name, so that, and then you'll be receiving also your certificate of participation just like last time. And just to keep records of those who have been participating in our activities. I guess it's past time actually. So I will encourage you to keep practicing and use these things to make your work in the facility easier and to generate evidence which people cannot dispute in terms of the challenges or processes to which you can improve your activities within the workplace. So thank you, everyone. Thank you to Dintley and to Emmanuel, who has been, our administrator has been taking records. And thank you to all of you who are online, and a big thank you. I guess we can all show our videos if possible, just one time, so that we can have, Prof, if you can stop sharing your slides, should I stop it for you?
Yep, I stopped.
Okay. All right, so we can all see each other and wave at each other and say goodbye for, I don't know if you can see me, my video seems not to be working. Okay.
We can see.
Hello.
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Don. Thank you,
Thank you
Gina
all.
and your
Thanks for
team.
your patience.
Prof. Don, thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you, Prof.
Myself in
Thank
the
you.
video.
Thanks, Gina. Thanks for all the work on this.
All right.
Dr. Teddy, we can't see you, but thank you.
All right. Okay. Good night. Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye, Doctor.
Bye. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.